Before we begin, thank you very much to David M. for joining my Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/TJOmega. The help is very appreciated. The support keeps the channel alive, even if it's just a little bit. And if you can't afford a little bit, I know times are tough. Just hit like, hit subscribe. That supports the channel a lot too. So thank you very much. And if you want to support with and still get something, that's what my Entertainment Earthlink is for. 10% off anything in stock. Have I gotten all the plugs out of the way? I'm trying to get through all the plugs very quickly because this is a pretty major thing that we got to talk about today. So, at the Game Awards last night, they dropped a trailer on us that I honestly thought was like a Titanfall knockoff. I seriously thought there was like... That's the vibe I was getting from that entire trailer outside of like, okay, so there's an alien presence, but like, okay, it could be just the other big villains. I'm still thinking like giant robot mecha kind of combat game. And then out of nowhere, this weird trailer that looks super dramatic and super dark in tone suddenly had a Transformer logo pop up on it. So this was Transformers Reactivate. Now, there's been buzzing about a Transformers game coming out, and we're going to get to that here in a bit. So I'm going to go over about everything I possibly can and everything we kind of know about this game so far, and just kind of evaluate everything. We'll go into like evaluating the trailer here in a bit. But first, let's do a little bit of like info gathering. Let's do a little bit of research here so we know what we're talking about. So, the official press release, Splash Damage announces Transformers Reactivate. World exclusive reveal at the Game Awards offers a first look at a brand new Transformers video game. Alright. So, we don't need to know a whole lot about this. It does give us a little bit of information about what to expect. So, it is a 1 to 4 player online action game in collaboration with Hasbro. It's for PC and console, co-op game. And of course, going with a completely new original story with the Transformers universe. So the story of the game itself is Earth has already been conquered, and conquered hard, like post-apocalyptic conquered, by an alien race that is completely new to the Transformers mythos. It is the Legion. And unfortunately, the Legion, especially as an alien force, is kind of a trope at this point. I feel like Legion is a pretty common type of enemy to name, but it's not something Transformers has ever done. It's always been Autobot, Decepticon. Maybe you throw in some Quintessons once in a while, but a completely new villain force, a completely new threat in the galaxy that is beyond any Autobot or Decepticon means, okay, this is something different for the franchise that I'd be curious about. So, I'm not going to play the trailer because I'm super paranoid about those kinds of things. We'll be talking about it. We'll be looking at screenshots afterwards. It does feature converting between vehicle and bot form, so that's a big game mechanic. Of course, it's a Transformer game, but sometimes you'd be surprised. There's a few Transformers games where transforming is not an element. Let's see. Richard Jolly, CEO of Splash Damage, is talking about growing up with the original series, so he does have a love of the franchise, so that's always beneficial. Let's see, 500 plus people in development at Splash Damage and Bulkhead, appropriate name for a Transformer brand. See, fans have eagerly been awaiting a new game that immerses them into our iconic Transformers universe. We're thrilled to share a first look at one of the gaming's biggest nights. Splash Damage has an amazing track record with some of the world's most famous IPs and have a strong creative passion for Transformers brand. We're confident that Transformers Reactivate will be hugely popular with the Transformers community and continues the Hasbro Blueprint 2.0 strategy of creating first-class branded entertainment across diverse categories and platforms, including video games. Yep. Closed beta plan for 2023. No official announcement date yet. And then all of the usual stuff. Press and content creators can register for access to assets and exclusive updates. I'm a content creator. Can I get stuff? Can you tell me stuff? Let me in. Tell me your secrets. All right. So before we go any farther, before we get into anything else, let's flip over to Wikipedia, we'll actually find out a little bit about splash damage, just so we know the pedigree that we're dealing with. So as you can see on their Wikipedia page, it's actually not a whole long list of games that are developed. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that as a development studio that's not overtaxing themselves trying to produce, a quantity of games every single year. They all seem to kind of devote to one project at a time. And if you look at it, it does seem like they specialize in creating multiplayer modes for video games. They did it for Return to Castle Wolfenstein. That's their first game. And then Batman Arkham Origins multiplayer, Gears of War 4 and Gears 5 multiplayer. They've done a lot of they've figured out a niche where they just kind of take an existing game and they figure out how to make the multiplayer work within the universe, the characters, and more importantly, the game engine. So to have an entire game kind of devoted to that mechanic is not necessarily a bad thing. And it seems to be like, okay, so they did the PC version of Halo Master Chief Collection. They've worked on Gears of War 3 separate times, but those are not strictly their properties or their franchises, and Transformers is not either. But it's not like they're adopting another game from somebody else to make a shooter, to make a multiplayer aspect out of. This is going to be a shooter they have total control and access to. So I'm actually curious how that is going to play out. It makes me interested. So they've got a pedigree. They have a pedigree for online gaming. And yeah, they actually do have quite a few awards to their name for being a really good development company. Best companies to watch, best companies to 2-star accreditation, best companies 3-star accreditation. All right. So they've done a lot. They've done stuff. All right, so let's take a look back because we just got this news out on December 2nd, so just over a week ago now. And I talked about this on a news roundup, but now we actually have a little meat to the bone, so we need to go back and look at it. So before, we had been hearing rumblings about a game called Transformers Rise that was being developed at Certain Affinity. Now, thanks to some behind-the-scenes drama or something and all this, and the game was basically in development hell for a long time. And we basically just kind of wrote it off. People just kind of stopped paying attention to the game being in development. And we assumed the game was canceled. And then on the 2nd, we got this rumor that Splash Damage was taking over development. And at the time, we really didn't know exactly what kind of game it was. But this kind of gave us a little bit of insight. So, supposed free-to-play third-person MMO. MMO already concerns me a wee bit. Not too much, but just a little bit of concern. But and the free-to-play can also be a little bit dicey. So if it's doing it by cosmetics, if it's doing it like Fortnite style, okay, free-to-play isn't going to be too bad. But it sounds like it's 1 to 4 players, so it's going to be more along the lines of like Destiny. So if that's what they're going for, may not be too bad, but we'll have to see how that develops. And then I should read the full sentence because it just literally just says it takes inspiration from games like Destiny. They do expect it to release in 2023, so hopefully that closed beta is coming early in the year. See, team-based experience. Bumblebee, Optimus Prime, and Megatron will make their way into the game, with Transformers being placed under different category types, somewhat similar to Destiny's Hunters, Warlocks, and Titans. The Transformers titles will have similar roles, currently under the name Tank, Damage, and Support. So, yeah, if you've played D&D or you played like a modern action RPG, you should be used to these kind of character types. It's believed the game has seen a few changes since it was under Certain Affinity under the name Transformers Rise, which was the code name for the project, apparently now being Fortress. So it was supposed to be Rise, and then it was Fortress. I think I heard one other name thrown about that I can't remember offhand, but no one had the right title. So Yeah, developed on Unreal Engine 4. It was said the game felt very outdated but has potential. So with a change of developer, that could see a change. We could actually see this updated and not, getting some of that outdated feeling out of it. I would think just doing Destiny inspired gameplay with transformation elements on top of that could potentially give you something to work with that could be really interesting. Now, how well that plays out, I don't know. But that is what we knew about the game previously. So I assume most of this is actually still viable as far as like the final game. What's interesting about this is the mention of Megatron, because we know we're fighting the Legion, and they've taken over all of Earth already. So, and the press release only mentioned Autobots. So the fact that Megatron's name gets thrown in there as well, that's a little more interesting. That has a little bit more to it. Now, we can take a look at some of the official images from the press release. We can see, like, this is where, like, this almost has, like, almost a Gears of War or Mass Effect vibe to it. Like, it's gritty. It's dark and gritty and, like, devoid of color that you would expect from a Transformer brand. It's different. It's very different. Yeah, so you get... It's basically just a generic look at human characters here, and not a whole lot. Not a whole lot about them, but just, hey, we have humans who are working on something that we have a first-person view of. It's very much the scenes from RoboCop, where like he's being reconstructed from Murphy into RoboCop. So it's familiar. It's familiar. This is where I'm annoyed with myself, because this screenshot happens. And there's already things in this screenshot that's actually worth paying attention to that I should have picked up on during the trailer. Because I'm usually really good at like paying attention to background details and going, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. During this gameplay, I was like so like trying to figure out what I was looking at. I completely spaced on the fact there's an Autobot symbol on the screen on the left. And then in the bottom right of the screen, it's very much Bumblebee. So yeah, then when like he stands up and we get the look at his hand, it's all yellow. All right, they reactivated Bumblebee. Of course they reactivated Bumblebee first. They're all very happy about it in this shot. The guy with the mech suit seemed a little bit gruff early in the trailer. We'll see how he plays out. So there's the Legion crashing down onto the planet. That's not ominous at all. Yeah. So, the swarming enemies, that's very Sentinel from the Matrix. So, maybe a little bit derivative. Like I said, not a concept that we are unfamiliar with. We have trucks rolling into battle. Now, there is something about this that does lead me to believe that this might be Ironhide and Ratchet in vehicle mode. We see, like if you look on the right side, you can actually see the red stripe bouncing, like the heart monitor pattern that they use for Ratchet these days. That's painted on the side. And then, of course, the one on the left, completely just a heavy red truck. So, yeah, willing to bet this is our look at Ironhide and Ratchet in the game. There's one of the Legion enemies. That I'm assuming that's our heavy tank that we have to fight. Yeah, and there's the hand. There's the look at the hand. So, yeah, that's very Bumblebee. I mean, it's very Bumblebee. He's literally being held together with duct tape in some parts, but, yeah. So, obviously, yeah, so no surprise. Bumblebee is going to be the feature. Now, this shot here, perfect for your wallpaper, by the way. There's a nice little Transformer Easter egg hidden in there on the side of the Statue of Liberty's cheek. It says, "Are all dead," which is what Shockwave carved into the wall on the 5th issue of the original Transformers comic book. So that is a nice little nod. I mean, it's one of the more famous images from the old school Transformers, so it's not surprising, but it's nice to know they're throwing in little things like that. And it's not the only Easter egg in this batch of information, too. Showed off an Autobot symbol. So apparently the concept of this game is the humans are on the losing side of the war. they're repairing and reactivating Autobots. I know previously something in the press release or the behind the scenes stuff, something for this was talking about the Legion like corrupting and taking over Transformers to make them bigger, badder versions of themselves, which ironically throws back to the original concept of the '86 movie. Kind of weird how that came around. But it might explain the absence of Decepticons at the very least. And, yeah, I don't know why you would turn to Autobots who already lost to go against powered-up enemies when they're only, like, ramshackle reconstructed. Yeah, there's another set of screenshots, which is just more fine detail than anything. You know, big swarms, big fight scenes. I mean, it's a bunch of really cool visuals, but we keep in mind, none of this actually details what the gameplay style is. This is all just cinematic. This is all just story setup. Now we have other things. Give me a second because there's something I need to pull up that I totally forgot about, but this is actually important. So we need to take a look at this post on Twitter by @codename_voted, who actually took it upon themselves to start translating the Cybertronian text that's in the trailer, and there is a ton of it. So she did a lot. She did a lot of translating. My buddy Grimlockamus Chrome Tyranno also did a bunch over on his Twitter page, but this is a little bit more complete. So I think we're gonna go with this. So shout out to both of them for putting in the work to try and find some Easter eggs in here. And we can find a few things going on that is revealed in this. Not anything terribly meaty, but a few Easter eggs. So, for instance, the first thing Bumblebee does when he starts coming online is he is trying to scan the humans to try and get an identity. If we look on the left, he's trying to see if the human that he's spotting here is Marissa Fairborn. So we have, and the EDC is actually mentioned. So we know those elements from the original G1 fiction are canonical in the game. So we have that to go through. And a lot of it is just like computer scanning, coming back online, nothing like, it's all like, I mean, it's all pretty standard robotic stuff. Organic life unknown, inorganic life unknown, possible form, deep space craft, ship designation unknown. So completely unknown. They have no idea what Legion is or where it came from. See, hostiles, swarm. All right, and here we go. On the left side here, Ironhide status, damage unknown, signature lost. So this is just before Bumblebee gets knocked offline. So I'm assuming, yes, I think that pretty much confirms that was Ratchet and Ironhide we saw before. And a few more, which is mostly, again, just a lot of protocol stuff. Nothing terribly huge to pick out from it. It's just a lot of fluff, you know, just like a lot of typical sequence stuff. But I do think it is fascinating that they put so much of the Cybertronics in the trailer and all of it is translatable. That's a lot of extra effort. I love that. It shows me that the developer is paying attention and doing the right things. You know, it tells me that we have people who know what they're doing running the show. Now, here's a section that might get me in trouble, so if you see this video re-uploaded, this will either be blurred out or I will just cut this section altogether because we're going to go into stuff that's actually leaked. Now, there is a YouTube channel. There is a YouTube channel at DPZ Luna that has already been copyright struck twice because they posted actual leaked trailers from Transformers Rise. And if you miss the trailers, it's not much. It's Ratchet musing about his role in the war. It's Starscream monologuing to himself about the usual Starscream stuff. Really, all it did was show you, like, the benefit of it was showing you just how they were designed for Transformers Rise. And the cutscenes themselves were nothing special. It was, like, very much the still image style cutscene, like, not the full cinematography that was going on with the trailer. Just, you know, pretty standard, just, like, insert cutscenes. I'm not even sure where they would go in the game if it's in the format that they're claiming. But regardless, they were DMCA'd, so I'm not even going to show you any screenshots or anything, even if you could find them. But DPZ Luna is also posting a ton of info about Earth Reactivate. And I don't know how accurate a lot of it is because some of it dates back pretty far. We know the new developer has gone through changes with the game, so who knows how much of it is still accurate. But there's a lot of info there if you really want to dig and get into stuff that's speculative. And so, here's what we're looking at. So, this is the design for Optimus Prime that was reportedly supposed to be for Rise. And it's a big, beefy, heavily detailed version of G1, but it definitely has the right vibe of a Generation 1 Optimus Prime. Looking very good. The truck looks insane. That's about as beefy as an Optimus Prime truck actually gets. Super heavy duty. So, cool looking figure. There's your Megatron. Sleek for a Megatron. Like, he's got a lot of curved lines about him. Not a whole lot of kibble going on. Of course, it's the game design. It's not a toy. The tank mode looks super cool, though. Really dig the tank mode. So all this came from Luna, by the way. Luna sourced all of this leak stuff. And then there is the Bumblebee model, which this is where things get some contention drawn, because I've seen a lot that don't really like how scrawny Bumblebee looks here. I think we all agree the vehicle mode is sick. Like this cross between a Mad Max dune buggy and a Volkswagen Beetle. He looks pretty awesome. Love how this one looks. But this is where people are drawing a little bit of contention. Now, this is where I start to wonder just how accurate these models are or how up to date they are, because there's a few discrepancies here. So if you take a close-up look at the head, and I don't mind the look of the head, it's not going for movie Bumblebee. It might look a little bit too stern for a Bumblebee for me, but then again, the tone of the game is very dark, so that's probably appropriate. So let's look at this. So here's our close-up of that screen. I know it's blurry, but it's all I've got. So you can see that it's the same shape of Bumblebee's head, but the chest details from there are wrong. Now you take a look over on the left side, and you can see that the forearms have some extra bulk sticking out the sides. The legs are a little bit smoother in proportions. They like round out on the lower section of the leg. Then if we go back to Bumblebee and we take a look, the chest section again different. The forearms don't like bulge out the way they do on that schematic, and the legs don't look natural at all. You know, instead of having this like smooth bulk to them, they just have a wheel well hanging off of these scrawny legs. So I'm not entirely sure this design is even accurate anymore. I'm willing to bet this has gone through some pretty significant changes. Now, if I go back to the screenshots, and we take a look at this again, where if I can find the shot of his hand. So, obviously, the final, that render we saw does not have the duct tape on it, obviously. But you know what else it doesn't have compared to the render? The render does not have yellow hands for starters, and it doesn't have the same shapes to the forearms. So, we're looking at Bumblebee because that's the schematic that got pulled up. That's the schematic that got pulled up on the screen. But either he has gone through modification, like if it's different from how he looked on the screen, he's gone through some modifications based on like just how they had to repair him, or even then that doesn't explain why the color of his hand changed. So either way, I don't think that model is entirely accurate. I think there's definitely something else going on. There's something else to see in this screenshot. Look to the right side. You've got another robot in the shadows over there that is apparently being repaired as well. It's hard to make out from here. There's like a central bit of glow on it that makes me think Shockwave, but that would be... I don't know. The rest of it doesn't really like fit the vibe for that. It's really hard to tell, but they are definitely working on more Transformers in this shot. So yeah, I don't think this design that's been floating around, I don't think this is final. I don't think this is how it's actually going to look in the game. I think elements are still going to be there. It's definitely the same head design. Beyond that, I don't think this is entirely accurate. So they've definitely made some changes since it was Transformers Rise. Alright, I think that's just about everything we can go through. So, yeah. Transformers Reactivate, which I assume they had to rename because Rise would clash with Rise of the Beast next year. It's going to be a fascinating time. We've got a brand new movie coming out in 2023. We got a brand new video game coming out in 2023. Earthspark has been rocking it, so we'll get the next part of Season 1 next year as well. It's going to be a huge Transformer year at this rate. So yeah, I'm super curious about this. It does what Earthspark does. It tells a completely different story than anything we've seen in Transformers before. You know, whereas Earthspark is telling the story after the war has been won, this is telling a story about after the war has been lost, and not lost by Autobot or Decepticon hands. It's fascinating, and I want to see more of this. So, that is a long video of me going over what is essentially a 1-minute teaser trailer. But hey, that's why channels like this exist, to over-examine things to the point of absurdity. But I thank you guys for watching. I hope you're excited for this game too. I hope I don't have to re-upload this to take those leaked designs out. But either way, thank you guys for watching. Do appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.